Zlurpcast!
Zlurpcast TV, y'all pick up the latest blaster? What? You don't get blaster? This guy doesn't get blaster. That's not it. Oh my God, you guys are missing out. Mike, how does yours smell? Mine has an American smell.
Not the British smell.
Mike, is yours reversed?
Not my second one.
Okay. I thought you had to read it this way.
If it was printed like, was it printed like manga?
The paper was upside down, and it was because of I guess there's a higher top margin than the bottom, so it was cut off on the bottom. So I could, if it was just printed upside down, I could deal with it. But because it was cut off, I was like, nope, I gotta say.
I think it's a fun social experiment. Just go into any kind of public setting and read it, so everyone thinks it's up, but you're reading it straight up. And just for reactions, man, just like throw people off from their daily fucking garbage lives. They watch you, though. Look at this guy. This guy's reading a rule book upside down. What the fuck have I done with my life?
Stock video of it with some hip hop playing in the background.
Yeah, I can see that. Zlurpcast TV. Hi to everybody watching. Biran up in the hoodie. Mike flannel. Xtreme's got a black shirt on.
It's like a wrestling shirt.
Oh, Dusty Rhodes. Okay. We got an Inner Circle shirt.
Is he the woo guy?
No,
not the woo guy. He is the son of a plumber, though.
he is.
Like Jesus.
I'm not into the lore, but I've heard. We're going to talk about a game called Sludge. It is from Metal King Studios, Sean Sutter from Relicblade. Check that one up. I probably won't put it in. Do this anyway. Over there.
Very highly rated game from Zlurpcast.
Very highly rated. It was a high bar to start with early on. This is a war game done by that dude, but there's it's got its own take on it. So we're going to get into the setting. But right off the bat, it is very model agnostic. Do what you want, but I think you're going to want to have some kind of feel and style to it all. We're going to talk about some of the little bit of the nuts and bolts of the game itself as far as what sets it apart and anything we've done as far as modeling and whatnot goes. You can get the rules for Sludge at Wargame Vault, right?
Yeah.
PDFs like $10, I think, or maybe I'm wrong on that.
I think the PDF is 10 and the print book is it's 20 for the PDF and 30 for the book.
Okay. For some reason, I thought there was a PDF only of Sludge, not with all this.
No, it's
maybe.
all of it.
Okay, maybe I'm wrong. So this Blaster magazine, basically, it's a bit of a showcase for independent game companies. I think this. Some people are like, "Well, can I just get the rule book?" Yeah, that'd be cool, but there's actually some good stuff in here. Before we get into that, if you are into Frostgrave, there is Shadowgrave in here. If you are into Gaslands is covered. If you are into Guerrilla Miniature Games, Biran calls them Canadian Thumbring, he has a game in there. And another game at the bottom. But the bulk of it is Sludge, which is pretty cool. So check this one out. Get the whole Blaster mag.
I would also recommend getting the actual magazine. I initially bought the PDF, and it's not printer friendly. It prints out with very dark gray background with black, it's hard to read. So I was just like, screw it. I'll read the book much, much better. So
I'm surprised that at this point, when someone puts something up for PDF, you don't either automatically go to a Microsoft Word style, which is, no background.
Yeah.
Either that only, or that as an option along with the actual production files. I'm surprised it's not standard now. So let's talk about Sludge. we kind of heard about this a little bit earlier this year, and probably from some of the Relicblade Facebook groups and that chatter, that he's working on something. And over time, Sean said, "Well, I'm not going to make any models. I'm not going to." And now he's doing models. He started off with, "I'm not going to make anything," and then he said, "I'm going to make some counters, and then I'm going to make some heads to put on some dudes. I'll make some heads." And now I think he's actually making models from what I've seen lately. But I will say it is a great reason to do some fun kit bashing with historical models. I use to make some of my stuff, which I'll show off. I use the Perry War of the Roses era models. It doesn't matter that that's 1500s. Like that doesn't really matter. There is not really a time setting. I mean, theoretically, Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, but alternate world, probably turn of the century, 1900s, or
it's like a Valhalla setting, so it's people from the 1500s up to about World War I.
Okay, so it is really on purpose covering,
yes,
400 years. And so the thought would be, it is a very yes, it's dark, more grim, more dark than grim. It is dark grim, and everything is the roots of this planet. Is it on Earth, Mike, or a different planet?
I think it's a different dimension.
Okay.
It's not our Earth.
If it is not our Earth, but it is all growing. That's where the life is being sustained from. And so when you're modeling things, roots and leaves and trees, all that stuff is pretty commonplace if you want to get really creative with some of the modeling on there. Or you can just say, fuck it, I'm gonna make my guys just be, walking through mud and just looking dark and dirty anyway. And when it comes to painting, I don't like painting, but if I have to paint darker and dirtier, sure. Gnome, earth, air, Agrax,
earth shade.
Put it all up. Darker the better, the muddier the better. Sterling mud, all that shit thrown in there. I love it. Mike, you started making some stuff early on, right? When
yeah.
What was your sort of style and approach?
I got, like you said, a bunch of the Agricourt and Roar of the Roses stuff, and a bunch of, I think they're Perry, plastic Napoleonics.
Okay.
And just kind of mix and match.
Yeah. Perry and the Warlord stuff is pretty good too, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Warlord. Yeah.
And you can mix and match between those two because they're all that more true, lifelike kind of 28 scale stuff that the models look great, but you're not going to use those probably in Warhammer type games because even the old Empire guys still look, a bit more meatier than these. But these look great, as huge armies, and they're cheap as hell to get boxes and build your own. Or, you could probably, Biran, I know you frequent the Games Plus auction in the Chicagoland area, but you could probably go and get probably already painted. You could probably buy somebody's, French army for $100 and just dirty it up and turn it into a sludge army, I bet. You might want to rebase some stuff, but they're pretty liberal with that. But Mike, do you have any to show off or no?
Yeah.
All right, why don't you show off first?
So these are just some line soldiers here. These are just your classic Napoleonics, and the green stuff, the white masks on their face.
Nice.
So you can.
Is that so they can go inside the grocery store?
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. Masks are now required in banks.
Normally don't want you wearing that in banks.
They were frowned upon.
Yeah, and I got some Calvary. Again, I hate painting horses, but I can make them less fancy. And
so you're putting, for basic dudes, you're putting 3 on a base for the basic troop guys, and you usually go one of two, or there's a few different routes you can go to as far as arming them. You can go with muskets and bayonets, which is what you have.
Yeah.
Now mine, I have some with guns, and I'm like, well, I got the knife on the pouch. It's covered. Don't worry about it. No one's going to freak out in this game as far as modeling goes and WYSIWYG and that kind of thing. But I built some pikemen here.
Yeah.
and I believe they're just like pole arms in the game. They're probably like a generic catch-all term to use whatever you want there. Biran, you're going to appreciate this. Great use of Mantic models from the Fantasy Dungeon Saga line because they're fit in. I took the wizard that comes with Dungeon Saga, put on a fun hood.
Right, right. What color are you going to paint that hood?
He's probably going to be leathery or black or something. I don't do well with whites. I don't think it'd look good anyway. For like an Arcanist type guy in there. This one, unconverted, was one of the Dungeon Saga dudes. He's already a tree. He's perfect. So he'll make a nice, like, I don't know, officer. They got some like secondary characters. This dude I'm using as my commander. You get a commander for free in the game, then you build your army around him. It is actually originally a model. It was from Super Dungeon Explorer. And then I put another head on him, kind of a screaming, like demon kind of head. But he's already got stuff growing around him. Figured what a great commander figure that'll turn out to be. Another Mantic one. I think it's the like cleric girl. I put a smaller hooded head on her. The Mantic ones fit well right into the scale. And then lastly, probably my favorite model, also from Super Dungeon Explorer. He will be a counts as cannon, obviously, spitting out some maybe, I don't know, some giant like tree fireballs or something. But it's one of my favorite models. I always thought it'd be a cool Blood Bowl tree man too. It's just a great looking model. So yeah, but you can build a I don't know, a bunch on the larger bases, like a 40 millimeter base, put 3 dudes on there, or just keep them on separate bases and keep them together if you want. And then most everything else is on separate bases. So like if you have, I also have from Perry a bunch of the Foot Knights, which I like as well. They're pretty cool poses with them. I was like the guy, you know, drawing his sword out. I was one of my favorite guys. And those are all on individual bases, 28 millimeter. So it is more of that sort of older scale, I guess, with a lot, you know, Perry, Warlord, and then, I mean, even Kings of War, I guess, right? Mike, I would say a lot of the Kings of War models could fit in well with it too.
Yeah, the Basileans would, yeah, because they're a little, I won't say spindlier, but they're not as beefy as the Warhammer minis. So
yeah.
What about
I used some Frostgrave stuff too. So
what about Song of Ice and Fire?
That would work.
You could easily use them. They're going to be a bit taller overall, but you could easily use them. They look great because they're more in that true scale too. The swords are swords. They're not fat like Final Fantasy looking swords like we're used to in Warhammer. You know. So the game itself, I'm not going to go through all the basics. If anyone wants to, if Mike knows any of that, he's more than welcome to. I don't know any of it, but it is a way to get an army out there and going with that setting. But a big part of the game, besides just fighting, because you know, a lot of these games, what happens? You just kind of like, let's just move them all in, fight, and there's some maneuvering involved, but you know, you want to see some other stuff to make it a little more, I don't know, a little more of a interactive vibe, I guess, between your opponents. So I want to talk about the Gore Counters that are in the game, because that is something that he has tokens. Sean has tokens he put out there, but I thought it'd be cool to build out, kind of like, you know, when we all got into Kings of War, remember we were all making cool wound counters with like dead bodies on them. So to me, that's the perfect way to do Gore. I know, like, I think when I watched a video, people were stacking them, but whatever, I'll still fucking stack them. I'll stack a dead body on another dead body, whatever. But I bought some of the Perry casualty guys anyway. They're metal, which sucks. I hate that those are metal. All the models are plastic, and for some reason, like the dead bodies are all metal. I never get that, but those, I think, to me are perfect Gore counters. I'll put like a dead body on a base and then write maybe like 1, 4, or 8 next to it, because I think those are the.
Could you just use because didn't your counters have just a dial? Just use that.
Oh yeah, I don't have any more of those. I guess I could have. When I sold my undead, I threw those in. I guess I could have ripped those out. I was just going to basically put because, and Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe the denominations of Gore are 1, 4, and 8 that he uses for his ready-made counter. So I was just going to make mine 1, 4, and 8. Is that what you were planning on doing, or?
I have bases, and I basically took old miniatures and bits and whatnot and just cut like legs and arms off.
Oh, nice.
Blood base down and put a lot of blood everywhere. So, and I have bigger ones for.
How many ghoul left arms were you able to use?
All of them. Yes.
Here's my base of dicks. It's got 8 dicks on it. That's 8.
It's a lot of dicks, a lot of gore dicks
Mhm.
as well. Good Blood Bowl name, Gore Dick. Mike, do you know enough to talk about the rules of the game?
A little bit, yeah.
I know
wanna
that
put you on the
it's D10
spot.
based. I know that.
What?
D10s, right?
Yes.
For your target numbers. TN.
It's D10s for the target number and D6s for damage.
Would you be able to do an overview of like the just how it goes? Because you're obviously stress accumulates on your units too, right?
Yes. So the two unique factors about this game that at least I have never seen before are stress and gore, and both of those have negative effects. Stress is basically as things go wrong or as things happen, your troops get stressed, and it actually makes them less. It's not like they're going to flee.
They lose ability. They're harder.
Yeah.
It's harder for them to hit.
It's -1 or -2 to their ability to hit. The gore is probably the most interesting aspect, because as casualties occur, you put down these gore tokens, and that the proximity of both forces to gore can actually affect their stress level and therefore affect how.
One thing I saw in the Guerrilla Miniatures game thing that I thought the way they explained it was really cool, where it's like one of the wizards casts a spell, and what the spell is really doing is lighting up the battlefield so they see the piles of corpses. So that's making them freak out and have to take a panic. Stress is the time. What I remember it most from was X-Wing. Pilots get stressed and they get worse.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so stress impacts, but then there's probably some units, maybe like knights, that may not be as impacted by things like stress and gore.
There's battle hardened that they get, it basically they can ignore the first couple of stresses. The another interesting mechanic too is when you roll to hit, it isn't you either just hit or miss. Okay, when you roll to hit, if you hit, then there's this stat called blast that enables. Is it blast? Yeah, I think it's
blast or burst, one of those. Yeah,
that's your burst. That's it. Burst is your ability to do damage,
and you
so
can
if you make the target
that
number
make that
better.
go up. Yeah,
you get full burst value, but if you miss, you lose 1 burst for every one you miss by, so you can still get partial hits. So it isn't all or nothing. It isn't hit or miss. It's the full burst, or if you miss by 1, you still hit, but you only roll 2 dice instead of 3, or whatever. And
if a nat 10 is a crit and it does extra burst.
Yes, it does. Yeah. So I like the D10.
Again, it's the D10 I think is the nicest feature of that, because you get that experience.
I'm all about higher level D8s, D10s,
not D20s, because they roll too much.
So Mike, when casualties are inflicted, you place gore tokens. Those being connected has an impact in the game, correct?
Right, because you take stress based on the distance to gore tokens. So how you place them, you want to place them so it's closer to your enemy, so they're also going to be impacted by it as well. You don't want to put it behind you, because you'll be impacted, but they won't as much. So you put them in base to base with the models that you just destroyed, right? Yes.
And then build up from there. So placing gore tokens becomes part of the ongoing reactive strategy in the game.
Mm-hmm.
And there's various ways to get rid of the gore tokens too, right? Yeah.
If you pass stress tests, actually the gore goes away. So it's I guess it's more of a psychological thing of, you feel a little bit better, or
it's an interesting take,
so it's not affecting you as much
on the typical bravery leadership stuff that goes on in most games.
Yeah, and I believe you have the choice to get rid of them or not, because if you get rid of them, it also affects your opponent.
Right,
So
because they're impacted by gore that even they caused, right?
yes. So you may not want to get rid of it if they have to make their test after you. So
Biran, play pure, never get rid of gore.
Leave it all out there.
leave it all out there. Yeah.
It's very cool adding those extra choices and like strategies into something that would typically just be something you kept track of on your card.
It's like
Yeah.
almost the gore becomes a scenery piece with
Yeah.
separate rules.
Oh yeah.
Well, and isn't it cool? Obviously, we all love kibitzers walking by games and commenting. However, I think it'd be kind of cool to see a table full of gore, and that will definitely spark a conversation, because that seems like you're having a badass game of Sludge when you see a bunch of gore.
I'm more interested in creating gore tokens than the models. Is that weird? This is an 8-dick gore token.
You can just, I bet you there's a variant we can make that just gore only.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That the game is gore. Gore is the game.
It'll be called Sklum.
So you still have your phases where you're activating and doing different things, but the stress and gore definitely add to that.
And it's unit by unit, right? You don't all go, you all go. Is it unit by
Right.
unit?
It's alternate activation, which I love that as well too. So
It looks like there's a lot of scenarios in the game, from Sacred Ground, Let Rest the Dead, Showdown. I mean, I know we always joke about everything's kill to a certain point.
Yeah, till turn 4.
Yeah,
Depending on,
dwindling supplies, 4 to 5. There are good. These are good scenarios, and they're very, they're all half a page each. They're not like, super involved. However, there definitely is going to be a time and a place to do that. You're going to be maneuvering and trying to get some key kills, I think, early on in this game. Mike, do you think it's when you're building your army, is there an advantage to, like, if I just had a shit ton of line infantry, or you having a bunch of cavalry? Have you noticed anything? I know you probably haven't played.
no, I haven't really played.
But
So
from an army building standpoint, is there any major flaws or advantages with taking certain things over others, besides just, fuck it, I want to make what I think looks cool?
that I really don't know, just because I haven't I've read the rules a couple times, and again, I was reading as he was progressing, because when I was on that Slack, Slack, and there was like, all the different versions and whatnot. I was like really, last November, I was like really into this.
Yeah,
I
me too.
I bought like more Napoleonics than I will ever use, and was converting all this stuff. And
Yeah, I built all my stuff last year when we were all kind of like looking into it. And I don't know, there's kind of a fun communal aspect of, almost like what you want a Kickstarter to actually be. but
yeah,
it's not, where you feel like you're not. When you do Kickstarter, you're not part of shit. You send money, you might get something later on. Boom, that's it. This actually felt like people were playing, and we were just talking, but if in that Slack and the Facebook group, people were playing with every version of the rules that Sean came out with, and he was modifying things based on what he saw from, it was a handful of play testers, but if you play enough times and give forth a sort of we tried this and this is what happened, was this your intention? And he can evaluate those things, and he was making tweaks, not drastic changes, but tweaks until we get to the whatever. This was probably version 0.05, from the beginning. And then, like, all right, I'm good. Let's go ahead and print it. There probably will be something else down the road, another supplement or version, but it's enough to assemble an army. This is 500 points. I don't know if this picture is going to come through, but to get an idea of what an army will look like, this is probably, you can get 4 to 5 boxes of Perry models and build something like this if you wanted to. It's not going to break the bank, like probably $200 to build something, and then grab your bits box and grab some cool heads from other companies, grab your Frostgrave bits and or whatever other bits you have, and put together something you think is cool. Then when you paint them, you can add whatever you want. Add on some tree bits and some dryad branches and whatever you want, or just paint them dark and dirty as well and have some fun with the bases. But that's kind of the idea, is to push around some cool dark fantasy models or dark historical models, and play a different type of game that is smoother and a different approach to playing it. Yes, there is the back and forth, but there's also, like Mike mentioned earlier, with those other things in the game that will have an impact on it, instead of just move up, fight, and hope I have more swords than you do. And there is a decent amount of ranged combat too. Besides wizards, you could have crossbowmen and muskets, right? And cannons. You could have a bunch of.
Yeah.
There's still some list building checks and balances. I believe like an elite for every troop.
Yeah, every troop unlocks an elite.
Yeah. So if you have 6 line infantry, you can build 6 elite groups, right? 6, and they may be individually based, like if you have foot knights, but I think they're in groups of 3 to 6, right?
You mean like per base?
No, like like this is 3 to 6 line infantry, right? But then you have elites that are on individual bases, right?
Yes, yeah.
They're also 3 to 6, I think.
Yeah.
I built mine just because of the parts I had. It seemed to all work out in multiples of 5 of everything. So I just did that arbitrarily just to make my army building. So I believe I have, I'm probably like wrong, but like 5, like sets of 5 of the different line infantry. So one with probably like more, one muskets, one with crossbows, then like pole arms, and so then like 5. I think just to give myself variety, but then also make the most optimal use of the bits. But I could have done 3 to 6 of anything, I believe.
Yeah.
So, Mike, do you think? I mean, I know you've probably got an army built already. I think I put mine out to maybe 650 points total. The base game is 500.
5 is the big game.
Oh, 5 is the big game. Okay,
Yeah.
Maybe mine's just under 600 then, I think.
Yeah.
400?
I think
it was
250, isn't it?
250 is a skirmish, and like 350 was the medium game.
Okay,
and then
so 350. Okay. Do you think you're going to be able to give this a try at all? Biran, do you think you try? I see Ryan giving this a go more than you
Ryan has the rules.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So we will add it to the list of things we want to try. But
I probably won't, just because it's more of a battle game than a skirmish game.
Yeah.
And I'm just not, that's not where I'm at right now.
Based on our stats, you were not a big battle game guy.
Yeah.
I prefer battle games over skirmish games. So I think maybe, Mike, could you maybe add some figurative Gore tokens to other games to hurt them, to have this one rise into the charts for you?
Well, that would be cool for like Blood Bowl, put Gore tokens whenever there's a casualty, and then people can slip on it or
add Gore to every game.
Yeah.
What are there factions in this game? Because when I was watching the bat rep, it was like they basically had beard forces from what
as of now, no, but they were talking about how in the future they may have different factions, but they're still probably going to have a lot of the same base units.
But maybe enough to, like if there is some, like if you wanted a little more theme to what you're building that also impacted the game, I'm sure there's going to be some that are more magic oriented and one that are more like feral and fighting, so probably I would guess if there is factions, it's going to be more of a generic route, which is in a good way of the, if you want to add a little more flavor to what you're building, pick this style of army.
Yeah, they mentioned some in the fluff, but I forgot what they're called. The nobles and I don't remember. But yeah, there's the bones of it are there for that to expand. So
and Bones also makes models you can use for this too. Xtreme, give me your take on this. I think you seem into it, but I'm not really sure.
I really like the hobby side of it. Coming up with your own themed army seems really cool. and I really like the Gore Tokens, but as a big battle game, it's usually harder for me to get into those type games. So I'm not sure.
I put models kind of away for this at about like I said, a little over 500 points, and it didn't take up much room because the multi-basing on the line infantry helps. You know, if the bulk of your forces is this kind of style, and the models are, I mean, they're, you know, if you use this style of models too, they're small. So the nice thing is for a battle game, it's not as you know, involved with, I need a battle foam 720 just to bring one battalion. Like, you don't really need to do any of that. So it's more on the smaller army scale from a model standpoint, I feel, while still having enough on the board where it looks like you're playing a battle game, you know?
Yeah.
Xtreme, when you were reading through, do you like the idea of sort of the, you know, adding maybe some growing roots around guys and all these kind of, like, you know, that style, that approach to it? Does that interest you?
I don't know. I just like the freedom that you have to make whatever you want with the game, which, I mean, I know there's a lot of model agnostic games out right now that we could do that, but for whatever reason, this one just seems like, because you're going to have a theme across an army, and most of those are skirmish games where it's not as important.
Yeah.
Seems kind of cool.
You can really do whatever you want. I mean, having like a trench warfare looking army, like a World War I-esque look, that wouldn't look anywhere out of place playing against a War of the Roses looking army. It wouldn't. Whereas on a normal historical level, you would never ever see that, especially with people that play those games. They would never allow such a thing anyway. But in this game, everyone's going to have a similar kind of sludgy look that it all works out, you know?
Yeah, I picked up a box of the Wargame Atlantic World War I troopers. I was using those for shock troopers. And
perfect.
Again, they fit right in. So
yeah, perfect for that. And being in a bit of an alternate dimension obviously gives you that reasoning of why this is all happening anyway. But yeah, I think, you know, from a model standpoint, you could do whatever you want, like Xtreme says. From a rule standpoint, I mean, there is a rules reference page in here that is a very simple one page. And if you just at a glance, you know, you've got your initiative phase. You see momentum on there. You got your activation phase. Short orders, move, steady, focus. Long orders, charge, combat, fire, hold position, and withdraw. Your combat orders basically, you know, talks about doing damage, critical hits, burst, combat pool, like Mike said earlier, your gore and your endurance, and then your nerve tests. And it moves on to the nerve phase. That's it. Outside of that, you've got some very basic terrain rules, hills, some line of sight there, long order to use great roots. You can heal wounds back by being near some great roots. I'm already thinking about using that ice and fire tree that I have. The old God's wood, right?
yeah.
That seems perfect for that. Some barriers. Oh, Mike? What is sludge? Like, that's the game. Terrain. What is sludge?
It's like mud. It's like dangerous or rough terrain.
Okay, so not only can you play sludge, you can use sludge, lowercase sludge, in the game of sludge, and then some thickets as well. Let's talk about those formations. That was a cool rule they threw in there.
Yeah.
So for your line infantry, line formation or column formation. So column, they're all in contact with two others. So imagine those multi-base, you know, the 40 mil bases, we'll say. In column formation, gives you +1 defense and -1 burst. But then line formation, basically invisible line from one end to the other, crossing all bases. That's going to give you +1 for ranged orders. So Mike, is it obvious that hand-to-hand are going to be in column primarily and range will be in line?
Well, in column formation, you're going to be, that's kind of like you're marching,
Mm-hmm.
when you're trying to get there, and then you're going to get in line formation. If you're shooting, you're going to get in line formation, especially behind a barrier. But again, that's from the historical aspect. They would march in the columns and then they would form the lines.
Because the column is -1 burst. That's to you.
Right. Because everyone's in a column, it's harder to shoot because they're not spread out. So the people in the back really can't shoot as much. So.
Okay, so it is taking that, similar
Yeah.
march and then get into formation kind of approach there. It looks like when you're doing your nerve tests, it's a big part of that. Obviously, the Gore tokens are there, removing stress. So for example, you pass your nerve test, remove 1 stress token or 4 Gore, and then crits are 2 stress or 8 Gore. If you fail, you're gaining stress on there. So that is, kind of an ongoing thing throughout the game, as opposed to just pulling off dead models. For a lot of games, when you're doing nerve tests, you're pulling off models that ran away.
Yeah.
This is not taking that approach, right? So I think it'd be cool to give this a try. I don't think if someone wanted to get into this game, this is like one afternoon you could build an entire army with a bunch of sprues, right?
Yeah.
I don't think this is like buying Games Workshop kits and spending, all this time modeling. You can slap together an army that looks pretty cool rather quick, and then do what you want. If you want a bunch of cavalry, you can. If you want a bunch of, like Mike has, the shock troopers, go that route. Those are elites. You're still going to need your line troops to fill up those mandatory slots there to unlock everything else. But 40 millimeter to 50 millimeters. That must have been an add-on from the original rules. I don't remember him doing 50 before.
No.
Giving people some freedom, because it doesn't really matter, because you're operating these as a single figure.
Yeah.
So they just 40 or 50, it doesn't matter. You can use square too, right?
Yeah.
Gross.
Is that gross, Biran?
Yeah.
Why is that?
I don't know. I just don't like square bases.
For
Except
anything?
where they're not used. It's just Blood Bowl.
You would like it in Blood Bowl.
Yes.
As much as I hate to admit it, it bothers me when people play with square base on Blood Bowl, but it's so much easier to tell if they're stunned or prone if they're using square bases.
Is it because games with 360 look weird with squares that are, because you're gonna, I like to, in Blood Bowl and other games, I like to turn models to face them because it looks cooler. Square bases takes you out of that a bit.
I just think they just, on their own, they look like square bases in a regiment base or whatever. That's fine. But by their own, I don't know. It's an optical thing for me, I think.
Yeah.
It doesn't bother me except within the same army. So I could build, I'm building my sludge army with circles, but if I did squares, everybody would have to be square then.
Yeah.
That would freak me out. It was just so stupid, but it was like having one. So now I'm circle on everything. And I think these should be on 50s. These are 60s. I don't really care, because anyone that's going to play me in a game of sludge would never give 2 fucks about how big this circle is. It looks cooler with this guy. And I don't have a 50, I have a 60. So why not?
Yeah.
It's not a game where you're modeling for advantage.
No.
Yeah.
And it's probably worse to be on bigger anyway. But I don't know. Maybe not. I don't know. Maybe
in a lot of games it is usually.
because it's more guys that surround you.
Yeah.
I always think about that.
Unless it's got the ass to mouth movement.
Or the it's you have a radius around you. If you have a bigger base, it would be. Yeah. That happens in Kings of War a lot, where it's like, oh, you're on a 80 mil base, so you get that extra.
With that,
I want to say it was Shannon's Kings of War army. He had that one unit, that huge dragon, but it was on a teeny tiny square base because it gave a slight advantage. And I'm like, come on, Shannon.
He's watching this.
Probably not, but he knows I bust his balls for stuff like that anyway, so he's cool with it.
Well, that was the legal size at the time,
right?
And the
but
model
it
was
was
just
funny
too
because
big.
it looks so ridiculous. This giant flying dragon thing.
Yeah.
Are you mad because he didn't want his daughter to team up with you?
Well, because she was a better player than me.
Yeah, and you're not allowed around children at all anymore.
Well, legally no.
Ever since the incident. Yeah, I don't know. I think a lot of cool stuff you can do. Like I said, I'd rather use monsters as my cannons. You can do whatever the fuck you want with this game. I really want to give it a try. I really want to.
Well, since you built 500 points, you could easily split it into. You just need an extra commander, basically, and you could split it, right?
Yeah, true. You're right. You can build a small one. Biran, are you insinuating I should have played this game before reviewing it and
God,
making
no.
a
I think it's better to go in clean without any preconceived notions that you can help by playing the game.
I mean, somebody watching right now is gonna be like, look at these fucking idiots.
Oh,
They're
yeah.
talking about a game that they've never played. And you know what I say? Do your video.
Yeah.
Let me know when it's released. I'll watch it. Because
Maybe we have played it a lot of times and we're just lying right now.
Oh, playing dumb?
Hmm.
What do we get out of that?
No. It's a goof.
Shit.
We're doing it as a goof.
All right. But I want to give this game a try. It's something that way back when I wanted to build a Kingdoms of Men army for Kings of War with all these models. And so I had a few and I bought some more, and Kings of War did not end up sticking with me. But I mean, I know we talked in our Kings of War episode, people can go from other models to that game. I'll throw this one out there.
So did you have those models through all your moves and just waiting to spring it into a game and Sludge came up, or did you just buy those recently?
I had some. Most I bought. So I had so what I did when I had for Kings of War way back when, I started to already put them into a multi-base format. And then when I sold those models, it was like, it's like Kings of War is such a, once you go cow, you don't go back. Cause it's like, it really fucks up a lot of other stuff when you do that. Even though, I still did the same thing. I cut the little circles off and put them on here.
Because you have to, because it would look like crap if you didn't.
Well, you could have, you could put them on there and just build up mud around them.
Yeah.
I just didn't want to, because I will also say, from a basing standpoint, I had this box of like, it's already like got
a design on it.
Yeah, like volcanic kind of like splitting ground. I like the base, so I went in from the beginning saying I'm going to cut all the built-in bases off all of these and possibly cut off another tip of a finger in doing so, because I want to put them right on that base. But if I didn't have these bases, I probably just would have said, fuck it, plopped them on there as is, and then built up mud around them. So I had a little bit of it, Biran, but most of them I bought fresh because I just ruined some of those from a Kings of War standpoint. So I ended up buying I busted out, I think I had a box or two of Knights. And then the rest, I bought it's a box called Mercenaries, War of the Roses Mercenaries, which is the best box in my opinion, because it has bits for making anything and everything. So I took those and then some bowmen and crossbowmen, but then the Mercenaries are the ones with all the pole weapons, I believe. So then I just kind of mixed and matched some heads and went from there. So that's it. That's the army. I don't think, let's look through my models. I don't think I actually have any cavalry with this one.
I'm with Mike. I hate horses.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not against using them. I just thought it'd be, I don't know, sludging, foot sludging, if you will, bunch of dudes. And I have a bunch of knights. So I figure that's going to eat up a lot of points because they're elites. And so if I have 5 units of 5 of them, maybe even 6 units of 5, that's going to chew up a lot of points. And so I don't even know if I'd have enough to do that if I want to use all those knights, because I like the models. So anyway, with all that said, yeah, I definitely want to give it a try, and it seems basic enough to do that. I think I would prefer, I like your idea, Biran, of splitting it, but I would prefer to put the models in my car and drive to a place where Mike or Ryan exist and have them guide me.
They exist in Roswell, Illinois.
Yeah. Was that my dimension or is that another dimension?
It's the prime dimension, 616.
Okay,
Yeah.
is it Roselle 616?
Yeah.
I just want to make sure I know. But I do want to give it a try. I will say this though, for as fun as it was putting together these models and using some Perry stuff, some Mantic stuff, some board game stuff, it's all really fun to do that. It's not also the game that's at the top of my list for I want to play this, because if it was, I would have. So that'll get reflected in the scores, I believe. But it is on the list. It's not off the list. Like Biran, it's probably off your list if it ever was on there at all. So it was at its highest, like Mike said, November last year.
Yeah.
But now it's going to get packed away. I actually thought about, and this is a crazy idea, the moment I built everything, I wanted to paint it all in one weekend as a goof. And
Speaking of that, did you see Army Painters got their own version of Contrast now?
oh, I did not see that.
I'm curious.
Well, I went with black primer, and then I tried to do like what is it called?
Zenithal highlight.
Yes.
I call it
highlights.
a Zenith TV highlight, and it didn't really work. Like I mean, sort of. I don't know.
Yeah, it did. You got to do it at you go on top and then angle it a little bit. Go,
I was like, knowing I wasn't doing white like full blast, then I was like, do I commit? And then it was starting to like dribble out, like out of my pee-pee. You know what I mean? I'm like, oh no,
You're getting cowper's juice on your finger.
I'm fucking up the Zenith. So I just said, fuck it. I got enough on there. I'm still not going to use contrast on. I thought the intention might have been black spray all over, like in all the crevices, and then Zenith over it, and then contrast over the white part. It's still going to be black. So I'm still going to probably paint these dudes like, pick a color like purple and then blend it with all browns and blacks. So they have one color and then just dirty. So that's probably what I'll do. I don't know if it's gonna be purple, but that's my thought. They'll have like a
So funny because we were playing a kill team and I was using my Death Watch, and I'm like, I spent a lot of time on these guys. I don't think I'll ever spend that much time painting miniatures. I want to do it super cheap and dirty now.
It's just, I don't know. I'm just in such a different state with painting, you know what I mean? Because I really enjoy finding a nicely painted army or units to an army, and then finding ones that match, and at the most doing base to match. So, and that's like nice Games Workshop fancy models. So when you get to a game like this, where like one of my main dudes is just this, don't get me wrong, no knock on the model. This was the Necromancer that comes with Dungeon Saga, but I could do that. And especially when it's all like black and brown and dirty, I could do that. And it'll look fine for what I'm going for, because I'm not going for anything that's going to look nice. Biran, when you spend time in your Death Watch, like that's a different style of painting, because do you feel me? Let me take a step back and ask the whole group. When you paint Games Workshop models, do you feel like you have to try extra hard?
It's not even that. It's just they put so much extra bullshit on the model that you feel obligated to paint.
You see, I get irritated sometimes by that. It's like, I don't want,
I'm like, guess what? This is flesh colored now. Fuck you.
Like,
I don't need all of that. So
you bought your grenades the same place you bought your pants, dude.
Yep.
And the same place you bought your shirt.
Yep.
And your helmet and your gun.
you know, and they give you all those extra bits, like, oh, you can put these belt pouches in
Nope. They
just a
never go
holster.
on.
Like, nope.
I'll tell you what though, Mike, from the standpoint of someone who's buying models, when the guy I buy stuff from puts all that shit on and paints it, it looks like I'm watching like a fucking cartoon. That's
Yeah.
how detailed all those pouches can be when utilized by the right person.
Yeah.
When they do it, when the dude makes a kill team and every little thing, like, dude, you drew a fucking Game Boy game on the Auspex scanner.
Yeah.
How the fuck do you do that? Like, I'm never gonna do that. It's gonna be black. The Auspex is turned off for the day, everybody.
It's in power
powered
save.
down.
It's got its screensaver on. It locks the screen for security reasons.
Good point. I should have had him do flying toasters on it. Like, can you? So, what are you looking to do, chapter wise? Forget about the chapter. I'm looking for flying toasters on the Auspex. Can you make it happen? Commodore Amiga style. No, but this game, if you are using models like I assume you're using models, it's not going to be super. I mean, like this dude's like a fucking dryad already. Guess what color he's gonna be?
Brown.
He's brown, and everything on him. Maybe the antlers will be a little light.
It'll be dark brown to a slightly lighter brown.
To a slightly light brown if I'm feeling saucy that day. But
A dry brush of a lighter brown on top of dark brown.
just to break down, like I don't know if this is gonna.
You're not going to get a brush all the way in there. Leave it all dark on.
No, but I mean, it's also, I mean, it's kind of like, you know, chainmail, but also just normal clothes. It's fine. So I honestly, by the way, Mike, I thought about before buying these plastics and putting together these, I actually was looking for, maybe I can find somebody's like Napoleonic army painted like that style, but then I would then like fucking douse it, fucking pour gnomes on it. So
Maybe
I thought
maybe some blood for the blood god here and there.
of course.
Oh yeah.
But I thought, wouldn't it be cool to buy an actual historical painted army and then fucking
And then do that
destroy
too and go, look what I did with your army.
it? Yeah, send him a message. It's like, yeah, it's
What
like,
regiment is this color?
how's it working, mate? Did you finish up the painting? Here's what I did. I actually just like, I took all the models and I threw it in like a fucking jar of Minwax, and then I just pulled them out. I fished them out and I let it dry. Oh, can I get my money back? Money back? I paid you. You already got paid. They're mine now. But yeah, there's just some cool stuff you can do. I thought that was a cool guy to use in there, and already has vines building around him. But let your imagination run wild. Dare I say, more so in this game than what we talked about in Frostgrave. You know, we talked about in Frostgrave that your imagination unlocks the key to the game. This is more so. Would you guys agree that in this game you can do even more than that?
Oh yeah.
Just because of the time frame it spans.
Yeah, yeah.
Well,
Score time.
score time. So get the rules, do all that, judge for yourself. We are going to go through Zlurpees right here. Are we ready? Let's go. Valdric, Jonny P, Xtreme, Biran.
All right. I'm gonna give it a 3.5. Like I said, I was super into it, and then I had to pack all my stuff up, and so it kind of got packed up, and I didn't do much with it after that because it's packed up. I would like to play it again, or would like to play it actually, especially now that the rules are actually in a book form now. But again, there's other games that are higher on the list, so eventually I hope to play it.
Okay, 3-point good score. I'm in the same boat with Mike. If we did this episode late last year, I probably would have given it a 4 based on hype alone.
Yeah.
But now the rules are actually out. So theoretically, there should be more interest. But due to the community nature of being sort of a part of it, I mean, we were like, you know, outsiders just watching the play testing and talking.
Oh yeah. All right.
I have an army built. I wouldn't mind painting it. I mean, I'll say this, coming from someone who doesn't like to paint at all, this is one of the few things I own that is currently built, unpainted, ready for me to paint. So that says something. Like I plan on doing this. I hope.
Some of your guys are one color away from tournament legal.
Oh, because it's already white and black?
Yep.
Great point.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? I'm just going to do the eyes and give them all fucking crazy eyes. Like they're all like, that's the best ever. When people are like, check out my
just get
commander.
those
Like,
plastic googly eyes and stick them
Yeah.
on.
oh, dude, like the model looks amazing, but just give them like black eyes. Like
His eyes are in shadow.
right. So anyway, so the fact that I have all it means something. I am also going to give it 3.5, however. I really want to give it a 4. I'm going to call it a flaccid 3.5, hoping to erect itself into a 4 one day.
So hustler rating standards.
I was gonna say hustler rating.
Xtreme.
I'm going to give it a 3. I like a lot of the ideas of the game, and I could see where there's a lot of potential in it, but it's definitely a game where you've got to build your own gaming group around it, or get your existing group to play this game. And that's a lot more effort just to get games played. And I don't see it happening for me. So
it'd be a Schomburg 3.5 maybe.
The conversion right now is it 3.5 Schomburg to 3 Indianapolis? Because that's pretty good rate right now. I mean,
Yeah.
a year ago, you could have made some money a year ago.
Yeah, I think it might go up because we're still a little sore that Todd kicked us out of our Thursday slot. So it made the value of the Schomburg game store dollar go down a little bit.
Did you tell him that you're playing a gaming goat now? When are you going to
Go
break
down
the-
that far?
But we're not telling that Wednesday is actually a better night.
Yeah.
We're not telling we're happy that we moved, but we're still bitter about having to.
Because we had that before the store opened. I was surprised that Ryan was more mad than I was. I wasn't even really that mad.
Was there an actual conversation?
Oh, Todd just said in passing, like, hey, could you guys maybe do a different night because we're super busy on Thursdays? And I said, okay.
Oh, okay.
But then I said, wait a second.
There was a little bit of a
guys that you
conversation.
hate, Todd.
You didn't? Did you offer? What if we joined in the randoms?
Oh, God, no. No, because randos are playing Kill Team on Tuesdays, and we're not doing that.
Oh, wow.
But there's those guys on. I mean, the guy I played, the rando I played last week, was really cool.
We're trying to get Janelle into it.
Yeah, Janelle's cool, and those other two guys seem fun too. So
we'll see. I have some trepidations.
I wasn't there the whole time, but yeah.
Okay. Well, I hope it works out. So Biran, over to you.
I'm gonna go 2.5.
Mm.
And the reason I was gonna go 2, but I like Sean Sutter a lot, so he got a bonus 0.5 out of me for that. It just seems like, again, it's an army game, so that's not where I'm at right now. And also, it seems like it's not like, maybe if there was a faction list that would ignite my curiosity. But yeah, that's where I'm at, 2.5.
Biran, I think you need more guidance in your games. I think you need more. I want to align myself with something in the lore.
Yeah.
Is it fair to say that
Yes.
almost like an open world game maybe is a bit too much for you?
Yeah, the sandboxy nature is like,
Yeah.
I need to
can
know
see
what the story is behind their food, like corpse.
Yeah, I could see that completely.
Yeah.
It's such a weird thing because I'm sort of the opposite. Like, even if I'm playing a Games Workshop game with years and years of fluff, I still have my own thing in my head of why we're fighting that may not even correlate to anything. So yeah, it's kind of interesting that I gravitate towards.
Well, I can still come up with individual lore for my guys, but I still need to have the overarching lore.
Yeah.
I need the framework.
Yeah, that's fair. You know what's not fair? No drawing in the cover of this.
Oh, he didn't do any art. Well, yeah, it makes sense.
didn't
It's
come
not
from
just
him.
him. Yeah.
It didn't come from his own hands.
So our total is a 3.125.
Yeah.
Okay. Hey, you know what? Average score for a game that has room to grow, both figuratively and the roots of this game, and also figuratively the roots of this game. These are the roots of this game. So check out Sludge for yourself. If you have any kind of interest in battle games, but for some reason can't do whatever other companies are putting out there, give this a look. There's a Sludge group on Facebook. There's a Discord, or is it Slack? What is it? It's Discord, Mike, right?
It is Discord, yeah, not Slack.
So go to the Facebook group, get your invite, check that out. A bunch of stuff in there. The rule, I believe there might be a beta version you can get for free in the Facebook group. Otherwise, Wargame Vaults, get the PDF or get the Blaster #3 book. There's other cool stuff in there too for like Frostgrave and other games too, and Gaslands. Definitely a good box.
After they join the Discord for that, they could join the Zlurpcast Discord.
Yep.
Are we supposed to put the invite in the description, Xtreme? Is that a thing? You're really into that now. So do you want to be like the Discord administrator, Xtreme?
For all 2 of us that are in it?
Yeah, I can be. It doesn't look like a lot of work right now.
Mike, we need you in there, Mike.
Okay, I didn't know there was a Discord, or if there was, I forgot.
I set it up last year when I was in the parking lot killing time, and now Xtreme wants to make it a thing, which is great. Great.
Last year?
I know. I did a bunch. I was like, I did that. I did like what?
TikTok,
Set up a
right?
TikTok.
Zlurpcast has a TikTok as well. It's
Do you have
mostly
a Slack page too?
I don't think I did Slack.
Okay,
I think I
good.
did Discord. Yeah.
I like Slack.
I was
It
in
is if it's manageable, but when you get like,
Well, I was Slack with just 2 of my friends, so that's manageable.
so
okay,
when I was in the Dead Zone Rules Committee, it was Slack, and I think I was the only one that had a real job. So then when I couldn't look at it while I was doing real work, I was 1,000 messages behind, and I'm like, I guess I'm out because
Oh, like I am sometimes.
I don't know what the fuck they were talking about, because if you're talking on Slack all day long and you're not part of it, like, I don't know, it's not for me, that style of 24/7 fucking plugged in. I can't do that. I just can't. Our chat is different because you can jump in anytime.
Yeah, we're not going to get mad if you missed.
But they were actively making adjustments to the rules. I'm like, I don't
Whereas
know.
our chats mean nothing.
Yeah, right.
well, I'll go teach for an hour, then I come back and it's like there's 47 unread messages. I'm like, fuck.
Yeah.
But it's like it's all GI Joe shit. So I don't like, okay, I don't.
But then you're like, oh, it's something I'm interested in, and I have to take a shit. Perfect timing.
That's fine. Mike, you better study. You're going to be our GI Joe role-playing game DM. So
Yeah.
we've already done it. So better study up. You don't even have to know all the lore. You just have to be like the fucking general ditching out our orders, I'm guessing.
Mhm. Shit, when is
All
that
right.
supposed to come out?
I think it's February, they're saying. I pre-ordered it, so. All right, well, follow Zlurpcast on social media. Check out all the other videos that are probably more exciting and interesting than this one because we didn't have a lot to say. That's okay. Check them all out. There's like 100 at least, including Mike riding on like a fucking couch, like fucking a couch. Fuck you, couch. Mike's doing that in the video, so check that one out. Join the conversation, Zlurpcast discussion Facebook group. Buy some sweet things like a coaster at zlurpcast.net. And otherwise, stay tuned for next week. And we'll talk about something else. And that's it. Bye, everyone.
Zlurpcast! Brought to you by Nuffles. Bet you can't just roll a one.